Next up, we have interesting comments made by popular streamer IShowspeed, who was recently a guest on Shannon Sharpe's Club Shay, the show that is now infamous because of its viral interviews with individuals such as Cat Williams, most notably. And Shannon Sharpe and IShowspeed got onto the subject of streaming versus working. This is not necessarily a hot button issue, but it's a viral conversation that has been taking place ever since Plaqueboymax got onto his stream and talked about how streaming is harder than working a job. And there have been other people who have come out to disagree with Plaqueboy, but it started this back and forth conversation as to whether streaming is indeed actually harder than working a 9 to 5. And so IShowspeed gave his opinion on it on Shannon Sharpe's show, which is what we'll talk about here. So this says IShowspeed says working 9 to 5 is more draining than streaming. IShowspeed loves his job. The 19-year-old recently sat down with Shannon Sharpe of Club Shay. Sharpe asked if streaming is harder than having a 9 to 5. In response, Speed revealed that he had a job when he was 15. I worked in the kitchen in a caretaker's home, and I was a server. When I worked there, it was way harder. It's just draining, mentally. It's just nah. Sharpe then gave his perspective. I think that 9 to 5. Most people are not in love with the 9 to 5. You love streaming, so you don't look at that as work. You work for you, and you love what you do. That's the thing that gets you out of bed every day. He then asked, "Is that how you feel?" "Man, I can't wait to stream." Twitch Speed said, Yeah. I can't wait to get some ideas in. Can't wait to work on this craft. Elsewhere in the conversation, Speed and Sharpe teased each other for their recent internet blunders. Earlier this year, the former NFL star went viral when he appeared to stream himself having sex with a woman on Instagram Live. Last year, IShowspeed accidentally flashed over 20,000 live viewers. The word accident is, of course, an embellishment, people. But we'll go ahead and actually play the clip of what IShowspeed had to say about working a 9 to 5, in fact, being harder. Well, not in fact, but in his opinion, being harder than streaming. So let me get this set up real quick.
Is streaming harder than having a 9 to 5?
Is streaming harder than having a 9 to 5?
Well, you never had one, so.
I mean, when I was 15, okay, I did have a job, and I did.
What'd you do?
I worked, it was a caretaker home, where like you send your grandma and grandpa.
Yeah.
I worked in the kitchen in a caretaker home.
Okay.
And I was a server, right? So, give them the food and deliver their food. But, and let me tell you this. No. When I worked there, it was way harder. It's just draining, mentally. It's just, I don't even get how people even say that.
Well, did you say it?
No, I didn't say that.
Because I think the thing is, but here's the thing. I think that like 9 to 5, most people are not in love with the 9 to 5. You love streaming. Yes. So you don't look at that as work.
Right.
Because if it was something that, man, here we go, you got to go on these people's job again.
Right.
You work for you. Right. And you love what you do. That's the thing that gets you out of bed every day, that gets you like, yeah, I can't wait to stream. I mean, because is that how you feel? Like, man, I can't wait to stream.
Yeah. Like I can't wait to get some ideas in.
All right. Yeah. You can't wait to get these ideas in. So this is, of course, in stark contrast to what Plaqueboymax had to say, which is the opposite. He believes it's more grueling, especially from the mental aspect, to stream than work a 9 to 5. So what did you make of that exchange and IShowspeed's remarks that working, he can't see how anybody would think that streaming is harder than working a job?
I mean, I think this is a thing where I respect all sides on these things. If there's a person that streams and they feel like it's harder than a 9 to 5, you would tell them that, all right, we'll go work a 9 to 5 and see which one would you rather do. You can flip it on them like that. But I do respect where the Speed kid is coming from, in the sense of him saying that he had a job before and jobs are draining. And I'm telling you right now, there's nothing like going into a place anxious of being on time. I mean, you were there all week, you're there again. It felt like you just left this place and you're back in there again. Supervisors micromanaging. Um, you're doing double the work nowadays for crappy pay. It's draining, man. That's really draining. Versus on the other side, where the kid just, flicks on the camera and the donations start flooding in just because he went live. He gets to meet celebrities. He gets to travel the world.
He is a celebrity.
Well, he's a celebrity to the kids, but he gets to meet Ronaldo and all these other people, man. Noah Lyles. This guy's meeting Olympians and soccer legends. I mean, this guy's he's doing it up. And no way would he be able to travel the world and do what he's doing right now if he stayed in that kitchen. He wouldn't be able to have the house, the car, none of that. So I think these guys, to have a perspective in life, even at that age, to be appreciative of the opportunity that they have. I think those are the ones that are going to be saying that, hey, man, I'm glad I'm streaming versus, having a job. And on the contrary, I would say that the ones that feel like it is mentally taxing for that person. And they would rather just be normal like other people. So at that point, it's taxing to them. So at that point, they would say, hey, man, this is demanding. I didn't want to go live today, but I would have to go live because I ain't trying to lose no juice. So it depends on where you're at in the realm. So I feel like this is a subjective debate. I think every 9-to-5er can just look at these people and go, I'll trade this any day. Would you? There's a lot of trade-offs with this world. And there's some people built for this many subscribers, followers, and stuff. Like on IG alone, this kid's at damn near 27 million.
Wow.
And so he's a big name, and he can't go nowhere, I'm sure, without being regular. Trying to be regular, and I don't think he can do that. Which some people may want, some people may not. So I think it's just a subjective debate. But overall, I think the average, everyday, common person that does work a 9-to-5 would holler that they would rather stream versus clock back in and deal with the supervisor later. Or if you're a supervisor, deal with those knucklehead ass employees. But what are your thoughts, man, on Sir Speed saying that, hey, man, on the contrary, man, working a 9-to-5 is actually harder than doing this streaming thing? What are your thoughts?
It depends on what you think of it depends on how you contextualize work. Mm-hmm. I think that's the crux of this whole thing. I hear both sides as well because I've done both. I'm actively doing both. So I hear both sides. I have always thought of work as physical labor, physical output. And that doesn't mean just picking up boxes and doing actual manual physical labor. It's also the physical act of having to wake up 2 hours before you're scheduled to be into work, putting on your clothes, eating your breakfast, getting into the car, commuting for an hour in traffic so that you can get to work on time, getting to the desk. Like I put all of that beneath the umbrella of labor. And sitting at the desk, waiting for your lunch break, getting your 1 hour of respite to
Lord,
go back going back to have to work for another 5 hours. And then they let you out of there. You have to commute for another hour in more traffic. God forbid you have hobbies or things that you like to do, like going to the gym, or maybe you like going to a cooking class or a painting class. Maybe you want to hit up happy hour after work. You have an hour commute. You go to do your post work thing. By the time you get home, it's what, 9, 10 o'clock at night, and then you have to literally go to sleep and wake up and do the whole thing all over again, right? That to me is mental anguish. Mm-hmm. And when Plaqueboymax described the thing that makes streaming harder than working a job, the thing that he emphasized was the mental toll. Mm-hmm. And the thing that I was saying towards that idea is you act as though people who have to work a job aren't experiencing a mental toll themselves. Like, just because you stream and have to deal with negative comments online doesn't mean you're the only one dealing with a mental toll. Mm-hmm. There's different forms of mental anguish. Yours is just of the internet variety. And people who have to go to work every day, their mental anguish is of the person-to-person physical variety. Like I said, having to get up and commute to work, having to commute to traffic in work to get to work, commuting in traffic for an hour back and forth, depending on where you live. People are spending $100 a week on gas because of their working commutes. No one wants to do that, right? As a streamer, you don't have to commute to work. You're not paying these high gas and oil prices. That's car maintenance. There's a domino effect of a lot of this stuff. You got to pay for oil changes more often. You got to pay for new tires and new brakes, a new battery more often. And that's just the vehicle aspect of the mental toll that the financial strain of working a 9-to-5 can have on you. Likewise, or rather conversely, you're a streamer, you got to be on 24/7. You got to be ready to get on your computer, get in front of your phone. You can be out in the street somewhere and you thought that you was going to have a relaxing day, and you might have to do an impromptu stream. That can be I would imagine that can be pretty annoying. Mm-hmm. Like, you can't just have a day to yourself. You want to have fun, do something, hang out with some friends. Maybe you're dealing with people who want to take selfies with you or stream with you, and now you got to figure that part out. Or maybe you just woke up today and you don't feel like streaming. Maybe you just want to play PS5 all day, mm-hmm. but you can't because you got to get on this thing and stream for 2-3 hours. So there's mental anguish inherent in that. The fact of the matter is, this is all a matter of perspective.
Right.
And both sides are framing work and all of those things within the context of their various experiences. But there's an experience to be had across the board, and to categorize one as harder than the other merely shows that you only have experience for one over the other.
Right.
So what I like about Speed's comments is he said he did both. Mm-hmm. And so he's saying it's literally harder to work a 9-to-5 than to be a streamer. And if you were to ask me, someone who's kind of in the quasi position of doing both, I would agree with that. Because I put a lot of stock into the notion of having to get up and physically go back and forth to work 5 days a week.
Oh, boy.
Which is a pain in the ass, the worst way to live. And it sucks to high heavens. And as a streamer, you don't have to do that. You just have to develop the right kind of work balance for yourself, so that when you do have to stream, you can deal with that mentally, and also learn the best way for you to ward off negative comments and criticisms online, which to me is hard because all you have to do is just block people, ban people. I do that every day, all day. I don't care. So it's a matter of perspective, and I hear both sides. But I think the one thing to take away from this, well, it's one of the things to take away from this, is its perspective and not age. Because I think you and I were basically, giving Plaqueboy the benefit of the doubt because he's 21 years old. So he has no life experience with which to grasp from. So him speaking from the standpoint of streaming being harder is due almost entirely to the fact that he's never worked a job in his life. So how would he know? Mm-hmm. There's no point of reference for him to juxtapose it. Mm-hmm. But Speed said he worked a job. And so because he has both perspectives to lean on, he can more accurately talk about the experiences therein and determine which for him was harder. And I can respect that as well. So I think perspective is important. And I don't think age is necessarily inherent in having that perspective, because Speed's 19 and Plaqueboymax is 21. They're both in the same generation. They're both in the same cohort. One just so happens to have a more well-rounded perspective than the other. But like you, I do hear both sides, and I do think that it's a matter of your experiences and your perspective. I won't dismiss either position, but I do think ultimately, because of the volume of what you have to go through on a day-to-day basis, I think streamers should count their blessings that they're not having to go to work every day.
Yeah, now that I agree with. Now that I agree with. And it's kind of like how, what Shannon was saying, in the sense that, oh, you're doing what you love, so you're not really considering it work. You know, that's a degree of it, I guess. Because I see some people that are, I guess, influencers or whatever, or that are like on YouTube, and they travel around the world and they eat food and stuff like that. Like, that's fire, bro. Yeah, you got to take a camera with you everywhere. Yeah, you can't miss that flight. Yeah, you got to wake up and commute and do this, and you probably got to eat some bizarre food that you never had before. They probably then got sick but didn't show it on camera. I'm pretty sure it has its positives and its withdrawals. But for the most part, I'm pretty sure all of those people are going to say, I love what I do. I get to travel the world because I love to travel. I get to eat all this good food because I like to eat good food. And so they wouldn't be able to do that sitting behind a desk. So even though every job, if you will, comes with its own bits of trauma or whatever, the people that are actually doing what they love aren't going to sit here and say that a 9-to-5 is harder. But if the person is streaming reluctantly, then you're in your own hell. So that is harder. So if you're streaming, you better be doing what you like to do. I'd say that, because at that point it is a job. Yeah. It is work. Yeah. And then at that point, all of those knucklehead kids in the chat, you know, being goofballs, they're no different than your supervisor micromanaging you at that point.
Yeah.
So so if the streamer's doing, because from what I see from these clips from Speed, you know what I'm saying, the kid, he always got a smile on his face. He's always doing something. It seems like he's enjoying to be doing at the time, communicating with people that he would want to communicate with. So yeah, he seems to be enjoying himself. And then if he went out and did a stream, had a blast himself, it was just somebody recording it, and then he turned around looking at his bank account and he had, 15, 16K, that day because of whatever, I'm pretty sure he's not mad at that. So yeah, I mean, I hear it, but part of the perspective is, are you doing what you like to do? And if you're not enjoying this, then yeah, you are in your own personal hell, and you need to get out of there, instead of torturing yourself. And when it comes to that Plaqueboy conversation, that's what I was saying, in a roundabout way, where I was like, the tape isn't out on this yet. This streamer career pretty much just got started. There's no data on this yet, so we don't know how these people are going to pan out. But I've seen streamers, successful streamers, get locked up, all kinds of weird stuff, because this is a new industry, and there's really no way of people how to gauge or how to handle this, how the psychotherapy with this works, because taking on all that energy all the time, what would it do to a person? So there's some people that are just natural celebs, natural popular people that can take this and roll with it and have a smile on their face. And there's other people that get overwhelmed with all that energy. So what is the side effects of this? So everybody can point and holler and go, hey man, you're streaming, you're making all that money, and I got to clock in. And it's like, okay, yeah, great. But what is it doing to that person? We don't know yet. And they can still have a smile on their face, enjoy all the stuff that they're doing, but they got too much going on and crash out.
Yeah.
So who knows? So I think that this thing is still, it's still developing. And but yeah, I think the major takeaway here is get into what you want to do, lest you live in hell.
Ideally, yeah. Unfortunately, most people don't, which is why most people are miserable. Mm-hmm. And that is a very good point. I think to the non-streamer, streaming looks like, why wouldn't you love that? But it doesn't matter what we're talking about. Every discipline, every occupation, every mode of earning a living has people who can do something that appears to be desirable, but they really don't like it. Mm-hmm. So you'd be amazed how many of these streamers out here who are successful at streaming, who have a lot of followers, don't really like doing it.
Right.
And so for them, to your point, you're absolutely right. It does feel like work. If you don't enjoy doing something and you have to toil away at it, it is going to feel like you're working it instead of it being something that you naturally want to do. Because like when you love to do something, it kind of feels like a hobby. You know, like because I love playing basketball, I can go to the basketball court right now and put up shots, and I'll be out there until midnight, and it will seem like I was only there for 30 minutes. Versus somebody who may not like basketball, but maybe they're trying to figure out how to get into doing something with cardiovascular, and so they give basketball a shot, and they're miserable because they don't really like basketball. So an hour can, 15 minutes on a basketball court will seem like 4 hours to them.
Right.
So yeah, if you don't enjoy it, it is going to seem like work. And I do think as quietly as it's kept, there might be a lot of these individuals who are in these positions of being popular, successful streamers, but they don't really like it. And they do find it painstaking to have to get up every day and stream, to get up every day and document and vlog and do interviews or try to make some kind of viral content because they genuinely don't really like it. But they fell into it somehow, some way, and so they do it. But there's mental anguish that comes from it because they don't really like it. And one of the saddest tragedies for me when it comes to like human existence is the reality that the vast majority of people on this earth really do live an entire life without discovering what it is that they want to do. Because I think most people who work jobs, who do stuff, they go their entire lives, they work, then they retire to whatever life is left for them, and they have all of these regrets. And you see all of these memes and these motivational content and this inspirational stuff on YouTube and social media talking about discovering your passion and being courageous and taking the leap. And don't be afraid. Do what you want to do. Don't be afraid. Take the chance. Take the risk. And it's like, yeah, all of that sounds good, but as quietly as it's kept, a lot of people really don't know what they like. They don't know. And so they never discover it. And then they end up old. And that's just the life that they lived. And that's sad and unfortunate because when you do discover that and you can lean into it, life does become fun to live. And it does become fun to wake up every day. Like people who enjoy architecture, who are landscape architects, they wake up every day excited to go into their office. They got to work on their new project. But if you got into accounting and you really don't like sitting there dealing with these numbers all day, it's going to suck for you. It's going to suck. The last thing that I'll say, I'm a big, Marvel fan. I follow the MCU. My favorite MCU movie is Captain America, the Winter Soldier. And there's a scene where Steve Rogers is talking to Sam Wilson. Sam Wilson, he eventually becomes the Falcon. And they're having a conversation and they're talking about, life outside of being a soldier. And, Captain America, Steve Rogers, he's dealing with this existential crisis. What do I do with my life? I don't know what I want. Who am I outside of being Captain America, outside of being a soldier? And Sam Wilson is like, hey, man, you're Captain America. You can do whatever you want to do. And he asks him a very simple question. What makes you happy? And Captain America's response is, I don't know. And I think that that's most people. Most people don't know what makes them happy. So it's easy to be like, hey, do this, do that, lean into your passion. But a lot of people don't know what makes them happy. And when you don't know what makes you happy, you don't know how to avoid being miserable, having to do what you need to do to earn a living. A lot of people simply just don't discover that, unfortunately. And to the people who do discover it, you're in a privileged position. You should count your blessings that you learn that. But some of these people, streamers included, even though they're streaming and you look at it from the outside in, saying, hey, man, that looks great. Who wouldn't want to do that and make a lot of money? They may be hating it because they don't really like doing it. And you just never know. So whether 9 to 5 or streaming is happier depends on your perspective and whether you've been able to discover that for yourself. It appears as though IShowspeed has been able to discover it, luckily for him. But most people in the world, I would say percentage-wise, don't discover that. They don't learn it, sadly. And this is where most people therefore find themselves not liking the clock in, not liking the grind, not liking the commute, not liking the office, not liking to have to wake up 6 a.m. to be on time at 8 a.m. It just sucks. And a lot of people don't discover what that is. And that's something that I really do feel a profound sadness for, but such is the journey of life. And, hopefully as many people as possible can discover that for themselves.
Yeah. And I'll say this, and I agree with that. But I also feel like, and because where I was getting at when I was saying that is also like, especially if you're streaming, you better be streaming something that you like doing. Now, sometimes, you got to work the job, you got to work to pay your bills if you're a regular everyday person, and you're not always going to have a career in your field. So that's understandable, but, when I look at other cultures that come to America, for instance, I think I mentioned this before, like there's a lot of Indian people here, from India, and, they got nice cars, they doctors, dentists, engineers, and, the doctor and dentist, you can throw that in the air and say that they like doing that and have a passion for it. Maybe even the engineers, but they're all of them in the same 3 fields. I don't think they all love it. I think they're all doing it because they know where the money's at. And then after you make your good money, you can start doing stuff that you like doing. Because trust me, everywhere I go in town, they're out enjoying themselves because they can afford it. So, I think that what also needs to happen is, people want to have to start, if you're not, you got 2 ways to do life. You can either follow your passion and be content with whatever money you make doing that, or go where the money's at and be miserable like everybody else, but get 6 figures plus, and then get a smile on your face, get all holidays off, the whole rigmarole, you know what I'm saying? And cry in your Ferrari, take your family on vacations and live like that. So there's 2 ways to do it. But if you are a lucky enough person to live your passion, make the money you want to make, get the time off you trying to get, then you're a lucky person, and bless your heart.
that is a very small percentage of the population. I don't want to throw numbers out there, but that constitutes the smallest percentage.
Yeah, man. So just grin and bear it, man. Do your thing, get your check, and just make sure you do your thing. Because when I see other cultures, when they come to America, they don't get so much caught in passion talk. They get caught in who's making the money,
right?
Who's got the job security. Okay, let's do that.
Yeah.
And then on the back end, they get to chill while everybody else seems to be frustrated. So just want to also throw that out there as well.
No, I agree with that too. I do agree with that. And I just don't know what value it is to getting caught up in passion talk when it's just so hard to learn it. Like, so many of us just don't know what we want and don't know what makes us happy. Mm-hmm. And that's not because we don't seek it. It's just, I think for most of us, it's an elusive phenomenon, mm-hmm. And then trying to parlay that knowledge into making it make money for you. That's an additional step that's even more difficult than the initial discovery. So, mm-hmm. It's far easier said than done. I do agree with you. Constructively go where the money is, and then using your purchasing power to finance your happiness otherwise. That is definitely a more constructive route to take, because mm-hmm. like I said, it's the smallest percentage amongst us mm-hmm. who are able to discover that, parlay it into an income, and just be able to ride out into the sunset on that. There's very few of us who actually make that happen.
Yeah, so shout out to you, Speed, man. You doing what you love to do, and you getting a bank on top of it. So yeah, shout out to you, man. Keep doing it.
19 years old, man. Crazy.
Crazy.